Prepare to qualify.
How's it going, everybody? Today we're headed into the second lap of the AMTS Racing Team series. This team is 2 race cars, Cheetah and Gazelle, along with their Hexanoid pilots. For this track, we're going to talk about Gazelle's package and its contents. I'll do a couple of transformation demos going from cube to vehicle mode, and then reversing our track slider into box mode. And between that, of course, we're going to talk about figure details and some pros and cons of this particular figure. Then we'll close out this video with a box grade, and I'll share some final thoughts. So let's get this off the starting line. First off, Gazelle has nice looking package art with the name of the figure, and its designation code is IB-07 of the Infinitybox series. Cheetah was described as a Formula 1 racer, and Gazelle is such a completely unique design that they apparently had to invent a racing category, so they termed it as a quote-unquote racing trike. It's also code 10, which means Gazelle is the 10th vehicle out of the entire AMTS series. There are 5 sets of paired vehicles in the AMTS series, generally on the theme of a terrain, which combine to form a larger Gestalt robot in addition to other modular configurations. To illustrate what I mean, this set can combine to form Hermes and also its alternate robot mode named Mercury. I'll be taking a closer look at all of that in the third and final video of the Racing Team series. The set was designed by a brilliant guy named Andrew Lewin. This guy is phenomenal. He's done a bunch of stuff with AMTS and a lot of sea creatures and stuff like that, like the octopus and Camarasaurus, so yeah, this guy is a very prolific designer. Let's open this up and take a look at what it comes with. I'm not going to take it out, but it comes with a backer insert. I showed this off in my Cheetah review. There's a standard bunch of stuff, including catalogs, a box charger, these adapters that let you attach a 2mm port to a 5mm port, which allows you to come up with an endless variety of interesting and unique combinations to your figures. You also get an instruction booklet and, of course, the figure itself. New to the AMTS series are the Hexanoid minifigs. I think it'd be cool if 5.2 Toys offered these separately so you could build a little army of these dudes. But at least for now, they're included with larger beast boxes, and I think a fantastic added value. As a point of comparison, I bought a couple of sets of Diaclone pilots, which you pretty much always have to buy straight from Japan, and they're freaking expensive. Usually about $10 a figure on average. And I'll say that again, $10 per figure. Anyway, now I have 2. Alright, let's get some stuff out of the way. We're going to transform this cube into its vehicle mode. The first thing I'll note, it has an interesting looking box design, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later. First step is removing these back quarter panels. From the cockpit facing forward, pull them up and away. They're going to split apart like so and come up at not quite a 45-degree angle. You'll want to leave enough room for the next step, which is rotating the back wheel down. The cowl on the back of the wheel will need to rotate up in about this position. Next up, we're going to need to take these pieces and rotate them around so they're facing towards the rear wheel. I'm not 100% sure about what specific angles, but for now the key thing is getting these parts in the correct orientation. Then you're going to fold this quarter panel up and over. You're going for about this shape. The point of reference you're looking for is to get this fin to rotate down 180 degrees. The pivot point is this joint. You'll just crank that around. This piece needs to swing around 180 degrees, so that you get this fin pointing up and this piece flat up against this adjoining fin piece here. Then you're going to take this piece from this joint and rotate it around so it's flat. You should be seeing about this shape. What you're looking for is these fins pointed up, this triangular piece flush up against that fin piece, and these electric socket looking pieces facing towards the back side of the vehicle. This triangular piece needs to be rotated to face this side of the fin piece. At this point, we'll be able to start extending out the front suspicion arms. This piece is going to need to pivot down so it's flush. You'll have this curved pattern here. Then you'll kick the extension out, rotate it up and over, then snap it into place. Forward facing, we're going to rotate these 2 pieces around 90 degrees. The triangular joint turns out to be an important pivot point for the overall transformation, so we'll take that piece and rotate it from that section about like so. What you're looking to do is have the circular joint facing roughly forward. Now we're going to get the wheels oriented in the same direction as the cockpit. The pivot joint is here. We'll flip that over. You'll just want to make sure that you rotate it down so it's parallel with this piece. You should be seeing about this shape with the wheels pointed down and the decorative feather graphics on the interior. We'll rotate this again 90 degrees. The pivot point is, again, this triangular piece. It'll need to be flush up against this piece. Now we'll release the cockpit, pop it open over. Again, we're turning to this triangular rotational part. We'll rotate it so it's flush up against this section. You'll have these electric socket looking pieces pointed up in orientation with the chassis of the vehicle. Bring the cockpit cowl down and forward. I assume this is just to get it out of the way so these large parts have room to rotate. From this joint, it'll rotate so it's pointed straight up at roughly a 45-degree angle. The cockpit component is going to flip up and over. Now we'll rotate the entire strut arms around 180 degrees, down and around like so. This is the orientation you're looking for, and these air channels oriented straight up and facing backwards with the wheels in the correct orientation, and these electric socket looking pieces pointed inward. Then we'll adjust the cockpit and cowl position. These fins need to fold down. The stabilizer fins need to be folded out. Then we'll rotate this piece around 180 degrees. What you're looking to do is to pull the front half of the struts back to get them in their lock position. This piece will need to hook into that port. Push it in and it'll connect securely. You're going to have about this shape right here. I'm going to rotate these stabilizer fins forward. The flat part is going to be parallel with this piece. We'll connect them together with these teeth. And it rolls like a boss. And that's basically it. If you're looking at this objectively, knowing what else this thing has to transform into, it's not hard to see that this vehicle is basically a couple of legs and a crotch. I haven't transformed this into its combiner mode yet, but there's obviously some interesting little hidden tricks in here that I'm sure are going to come into play when we get into the third and final lap of this review series. Goes without saying, this is an oddball vehicle design, though it does have beautiful racing stripes, really cool graphics, and some sponsorship logos, which I assume are a bunch of inside jokes. It's very much on theme of speed, along with the combiner mode's Greek gods of racing, Hermes and Mercury naming schemes. It has beautiful styling on the air channels, nice looking exhaust pipes, and again the tire cowl, AMTS logo, and again the ever-present caution graphic. Like I mentioned before, Gazelle is code 10 of the AMTS series. More sponsorship graphics, yeah, and for as unusual as it is, Gazelle is a great looking piece. I really dig it. This cockpit is kind of an oddity. It barely qualifies as an actual cockpit. It has holes for the included hexanoid's legs, and unless I'm missing it, I'm not even seeing the instructions how you're supposed to fit this figure up in there. So you're kind of on your own for that, but I think he's supposed to lay in a prone position with his hands on these handlebars or something like that. So in line with what I previously said about the Cheetah review, I feel like the intent of including minifigs was to make AMTS vehicles more like action figure sets along the lines of Diaclones, but that's kind of lost in the design of the Racing Team set. I feel like their cockpits were kind of treated like an afterthought. Every other AMTS vehicle prior to Cheetah and Gazelle had fully formed cockpits, and in most cases pretty good styling and detailing. So in this case you can kind of sort of fit your little dude in there in a prone position, which is essentially nothing more than a windscreen that doesn't even lock into position. It just sort of clamps down on the figure. Gazelle does actually roll pretty well, and that's mainly due to these large exposed wheels. By comparison, Cheetah had to be transformed very precisely to get its wheels to roll. A couple of things I want to point out about styling here is the hidden details on this thing. I'm not sure what these pieces are supposed to do, but I have a strong hunch they'll come into play with the Racing Team's alternate combiner modes. Even on the inside, you've got this brake detail with a silver paint application. Alright, let's reverse our tracks and get this into box mode. I don't usually show a figure transformation both ways, but I do take requests, which was the case for this vehicle. First thing we want to do, we'll pop these stabilizer fins out and rotate them forward just like that. They'll slide into place in that little groove. Now you're going to want to separate this middle section away from the back end. It's connected by a hook tab, so you'll just twist it a little bit, then pull it out. Then from the outside turning in, we'll rotate these pieces 180 degrees at this joint. Line them up in this orientation. We'll push the fins out to the sides just like so. Most of the mass is pivoting on these large hinges. The front end will rotate around 180 degrees. Now we'll push the cockpit assembly down. We're going to get these pieces lined up against these pieces. Now we'll need to make sure these hindquarter pieces are rotated up from the main body roughly at 90 degrees. Then we're going to rotate those pieces out about 90 degrees. This piece is going to have to rotate about 90 degrees, just make sure the extension is in this orientation. From this pivot hinge, we'll rotate at 90 degrees. Next we're going to rotate this piece on this hinge so the wheels are perpendicular to the ground. Same on the other side, we're just rotating that around like so, and you'll get about this shape going on. At this point we want to disconnect that hidden joint, just pop it out like so. From here it'll rotate around and fold over just like so, and it'll compact up along with the fin there. Now we'll rotate these pieces so they're turned up on the side. Basically, this whole flat panel is going to be flush up against this fin. From the fin piece, this is going to need to rotate around about 90 degrees. What you're looking for is to have this piece turned to a 90 degree angle to its counterpoint, and what's going to end up happening is you're going to have this whole flat piece naturally resting at a 45 degree angle. There are some odd twists and turns with this thing, but if you follow along where the opposing shapes line up, then it starts to make more sense. We're almost there. We'll get this piece flush up against the opposing side. You're going to want to make sure everything is compacted up correctly, so you'll just need to have all those connection points snapped together. The unfortunate thing you're going to wind up having to deal with is, once you get it to this stage, this whole panel compacts up nicely, but there's nothing latching together. It's a bit loose and essentially held together by friction. From the front end, these pieces will need to fold forward. The pivot point is this large squeaky hinge, but then you also have to rotate them around. Then this cowl will fold down, and you're going to rotate it to fit inside that space. The maneuver is a bit ambiguous, but you'll have it right when these fins are tucked underneath the stabilizer fins of the cockpit. The last step is these interlocking teeth. This is the one part that holds the whole thing together. It'll lock together securely, but you're probably going to have to do some scrunching on this one. Anyway, that's its box mode. There again, there is a problem with this box mode, namely that there aren't that many interconnecting parts that actually lock together. So what you're left with is, this whole thing is held together by these two interlocking teeth on this whole side and nothing else. I've transformed this thing a few times, and every damn time it's hard to get this thing to fit inside its box charger. This is a rare one that I haven't had much success in getting it to fit in cleanly. There's no cheat side like many other beast boxes have that might have an odd cube shape. I would attribute that to the lack of interlocking tabs that certainly would have helped to get it compacted cleanly in its box mode. Those tabs do connect securely, but you're left with a lot of loosely packed internal parts. That being the case, I'd characterize Gazelle's transformation as damn near a flop as far as its box mode goes. I just think they should have fine-tuned the engineering during its development phase. Now it's time to give Gazelle a box grade. This is my rating system of 6 categories with up to 5 points each for a total score of anything between 0 to 30 points. Gazelle is a truly unusual vehicle, and even though it's plainly obvious that it was designed around the form, the legs, and crotch of its combiner mode, I think it looks pretty sick. 4 out of 5. The AMTS Racing Team has great mechanical details and modular design with multiple modes. The adapters they include give you a lot of options to work with. It's also a level up from prior sets with their first ever inclusion of minifig pilots. 5 out of 5. AMTS vehicles aren't exactly known for their design simplicity, and not unexpectedly, Gazelle's transformation is among one of the harder ones of the entire line of 5.2 Toys machine cubes. It is a bit of a chore, and mostly due to its lack of connection tabs, it doesn't even form a clean box mode. 2 out of 5. By comparison to Cheetah, Gazelle's 3 oversized wheels roll freely. My only beef with its vehicle mode is that damn cockpit. Its setup requires that minifig to be in a prone position, and I think that's a first among AMTS vehicles. It just kinda sucks that there's no clean way to fit it in there securely, and as far as I could tell, it really comes down to smushing it underneath that windscreen. 3 out of 5. These vehicle sets are built with good plastic, quality joints, and really nice graphic applications. I wouldn't quite say it's among the best, but I definitely have no complaints. 4 out of 5. Overall, Gazelle is as much fun to play around with as Cheetah, although its transformation is more tedious. I do think including hexanoids with the vehicle teams was a really good move on 5.2 Toys' part. 3 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 21 out of 30. Alright, so that wraps up the second lap of the racing revolution. Gazelle is an interesting vehicle design. It looks cool, definitely on the cutting edge of what can be accomplished with toy manufacturing, and has some really nice details and styling. It does have a couple of shortcomings, and its transformation is kind of cumbersome, but regardless, it's a great one to own and a very worth it counterpart for the racing team. For the last part of this video series, I'm going to focus on the racing team set's alternate modes, which are codes in AMTS language, the combiner modes, and a couple of other surprises. Thanks for watching. Please take a second to give it a like if you've watched through this. By all means, leave a comment, and feel free to share this or any of the usual social stuff. I'll catch you on the next lap.